Voilà, on repart sur ce one-to-one, là, le live depuis en plateau, mais c'était le live Monaco que vous allez suivre tout au long de cette journée, 8 heures de direct, et vous pouvez interagir, je vais vous rappeler régulièrement, voilà, posez vos questions, répondez à une question, on va vous en poser une dans un instant, préparez déjà vos mots, on voudrait savoir si vous allez continuer à faire du e-commerce ou du commerce de la même façon, celle que vous avez faite entre avril et juin, est-ce que ça va se reproduire, vous allez poursuivre un peu sur cette même élan au cours des mois à venir. Avec nous aujourd'hui Yann Rogers. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yann, merci d'être avec nous. On va basculer un moment en anglais, mais vous pouvez poser vos questions, vous, si vous le souhaitez, en français. Yann est le CDO, Chief Digital Officer du groupe LVMH depuis 2015, et puis c'est une personnalité, je n'irais pas dire que c'est un vétéran presque de tout le monde numérique, parce qu'il a travaillé chez Apple, il a été CEO de Beats Music, ces casques qui ont été rachetés par Apple, et puis ça fait un moment déjà qu'il est dans cet univers du digital, et depuis 5 ans, il est aux manettes du digital au sein du groupe LVMH, et il y a beaucoup à faire. On va en parler avec lui parce que il y a toutes ces marques qu'il faut digitaliser, il y a cette expérience client qu'il faut transformer, et tout ça c'est aussi accéléré pendant le Covid. Sonia, directrice des One-to-One, Sonia Mamin, alors c'est important évidemment d'avoir des parrains pour cette journée. Pourquoi Yann, et voilà, qu'est-ce qui vous a attiré dans cette personnalité ?
Comme on vient de le dire pour présenter Yann, Yann est une véritable personnalité en charge de l'innovation et du digital au sein du groupe LVMH. On n'a pas l'habitude de le voir, donc déjà merci Yann d'être présent avec nous pour cette journée sur le plateau. Il nous paraissait important de pouvoir partager, on n'a pas l'habitude on connaît mal le milieu du luxe, le luxe et le retail globalement ont été fortement impactés par la crise que nous avons tous traversée. Et ce qui est intéressant avec Yann, c'est vraiment de pouvoir montrer cette excellence dans l'agilité, tout ce qui est innovation et la façon dont il a pu mettre en place un certain nombre de process de transformation digitale, non seulement des organisations, mais aussi au niveau des produits, en fait des solutions qui sont trouvées pour le groupe, afin d'accélérer finalement cette croissance et d'être prêt au moment du rebond. Et on a pu le voir lorsque les frontières, en tout cas le déconfinement s'est mis en place, et notamment avec la Chine, qui a été le premier pays impacté. Il y a eu un bond des ventes phénoménales et qui était absolument inattendu. Donc en fait, ce que je voulais pour vous, tous derrière votre écran, c'est que Yann puisse partager finalement cette démarche. Et Yann, au sein du groupe LVMH, est aussi en charge de tous les Startup Awards, de trouver les startups qui vont justement accompagner les différentes maisons du groupe pour justement passer à l'étape d'après. Donc c'est pour nous un grand honneur d'avoir Yann sur le plateau et de pouvoir partager l'ensemble. Donc je sais qu'il y a des questions, que Yann va vouloir poser aussi avec l'audience. Donc je vous laisse dans ce Firestart.
Merci Sonia. Et bien on va tout de suite, n'hésitez pas sur les questions que vous les posez. On va en démarrer avec une dans un instant. Mais si vous voulez intervenir, faire part de vos réflexions, vous allez dans la session. Là c'est la session invitée, Yann Rogers. Vous cliquez et puis vous allez pouvoir comme ça nous retrouver ici. Voilà, on se retrouve tout de suite avec Yann Rogers. Voilà, on se retrouve ici dans ce one-to-one live. Yann avec nous. Yann, we're going to ask a question to the audience. Okay. First question, alors voilà, on vous demande de participer. Alors c'est une question assez simple. Je vais la poser en anglais avec Yann. On aura cet entretien en anglais, mais n'hésitez pas à réagir en français si vous le souhaitez. Alors la question en anglais: If there was a COVID-19 vaccine, would you shop in store more, less or the same as you did in 2019. Donc si on trouve ce vaccin, enfin on va y arriver à ce vaccin Covid-19, est-ce que pour vous, l'expérience en magasin, vous allez poursuivre, finalement vous avez pris des réflexes, vous allez continuer à acheter comme vous l'avez fait au cours d'avril et mai-juin. Voilà, on essaie de voir les réponses. Alors, est-ce que vous allez continuer alors voilà, I would shop. Alors on va prendre quelques lunettes pour regarder. Vous voyez, c'est un petit peu. Voilà.
We got a little bit of
Voilà,
each. The same as winning.
The same I did in 2019. I would shop in store less than I
think this is
yes.
For me, this is an interesting question because, I think that there's a few things going on. I think it's hard to underestimate or you couldn't overstate the impact of, the learnings that have gone on. So many people have discovered the power of what was in their pocket. They were maybe, good. Obviously, we all have smartphones, but not everybody uses their smartphone for everything. A lot of people will use it for email and text, and then, more advanced features, they didn't even bother to download Uber, right? We forget that, the average number of apps that people have is 0. So the question is, will they when they come
Continue,
out?
Yes.
Yeah. Will they? But at the same time, I think the more time we spend with screens, the more premium in-person experiences become. So I think a lot of us can't wait to get out and and have that experience that isn't like this.
And for retailers, for the brand, it's important because you will have more and more data to create a new customer experience. So Jan, we thought that the crisis has also been a tremendous accelerator in the digital transformation. Which best practice emerged during this period for you?
Well, I think that when you look at LVMH Maisons, we have really used this time to work on what I consider the supply side, which is both products and services. So I think that what we've really accelerated is that omni-channel roadmap. It's not new. We've been talking about omni-channel for many years and really working on it. But when it went from a single-digit percentage of our sales to 100% of our sales overnight, you say, okay, well, how can we get those services in place? And I think that what will happen is that consumers will adopt those services and they won't completely go back to the way things were before. So I think that what's really shown for us is the importance of a sales associate, so a human being, but at a distance. So, and that's something that luxury brands were doing anyway, right? So it was very likely that if you're a top customer at one of our brands, you already communicated with our sales associates via email, via WhatsApp, via WeChat. That's very likely, but it wasn't necessarily part of the way the brand did business. The sales associates knew that. Now, I think getting the power into the hands of the sales associates where they can talk to the customers wherever, whenever, and really build that customer relationship. I think that's probably the biggest thing that will stick.
Do you think you create a real new relationship with your customer? Because during the crisis, even in Asia, in Europe, and in States, you close all your shop. So you try to tell to the manager of each shop to call, to email to your customer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that in the luxury business, we pride ourselves on having an incredible relationship with the customer already. But I think that this certainly was an opportunity to show that that's real, to show, because we certainly had brands that were reaching out to their customers and saying, hey, we just want to check in and make sure you're okay. And it wasn't a sales call. And, I think that ultimately amounts to relationships, which down the road, may amount to sales. But I definitely think it was an opportunity for the luxury brands to show that those relationships are real. They're in the sense that they are.
Well, luxury is very often ahead in terms of innovation. So have you seen an innovative service in your area?
I think that the thing that this pandemic has helped people understand is, I think in luxury, people thought of e-commerce as e-commerce looks like Amazon,
Yes.
And what I've been saying for years is not necessarily. When you're selling of high consideration, high value products such as a luxury watch, it's probably not going to look like Amazon, but it will probably still involve digital. It'll involve maybe a video chat. you know, those sorts of things. So I think it's opened people's minds a bit to say that, there's probably some combination of kind of FaceTime plus Louis Vuitton that's an experience that's kind of yet to be built. So I think that kind of, I think it's taken people into what is the customer journey of the future look like when we use the power of what you and I are doing right now. And you know, I don't see the same thing behind me that I see there. We could be in a store right now with somebody pushed a button behind that glass window, right? So you think about what the possibilities of that kind of experience could be.
And do you think for this innovative service, you could scalable them for all the retail players?
I think that this is what the internet has done, is it's allowed, you know, the kind of luxury experiences to scale. Right? You know, I don't have a private driver, but I have Uber. I don't have a vacation home, but I have Airbnb. So when you kind of apply that to the luxury market, you go, well, there are certain experiences, you know, if I'm a very high-end luxury client, I might not go to the store comes to me. You know, if you are a woman in Beverly Hills, you know, the sales associates will bring the clothes to you. Yeah. So, you know, when you think about, you know, shopping at home, I mean, you start to have that analogy that you have with Uber and Airbnb, right? Where you're taking really what is previously considered a luxury experience that was only reserved for the highest of net worth individuals, but now you can scale that bigger. So yeah, I think that is happening and will continue to happen not because of the pandemic, but really because of what's available with what we all have these powerful computers in our pockets.
Jan, you have a worldwide vision because LVMH is a worldwide group. Is there a difference between Asian market, Asian customer, European customer, and U.S. customer?
There definitely is. I mean, I think that you know, the ecosystems are moving at a different pace. You know, the way I would look at it though is, you know, human beings as a race have evolved very little in, you know, 100,000 years, but civilizations have evolved a lot. And I think that that's really the context that we're living within. And then what you have is you have kind of different civilizations because of the internet. The Chinese internet is different from the US internet, and the adoption of internet services in European both businesses and customers is different. But I would really come back to the supply side.
Yes.
You know, I think if you go back to China pre-SARS, they were behind, you know, the internet in terms of you know, in terms of e-commerce penetration. After, they were ahead of the U.S. in terms of e-commerce penetration. And I think you have you know, these necessity is the mother of invention. So, you know, in London there is a huge penetration of click and collect. So John Lewis and Marks and Spencer, more than 50% of the orders that come to them online are picked up in store. That's not the case in Tokyo, but I would argue that that's more of a supply side problem than a demand side problem. I think that if you know, Japanese retailers offered those services, consumers would adopt them, and then they would have, you know, similar penetration rates. So that's why I think that, you know, opening the supply side on both products and services during this pandemic will change things in a way that simply won't go back.
Is it difficult for you, for your employees, to change their mind, to know that they are in a shop, but now they are going to make a click and collect? You know, not only selling, but a click and collect, more customer relationship by email, by phone. It's a new mind. It's you understand?
Definitely. I think that, you know, in any industrial transformation, you know, some people reinvent themselves, some people don't, and new people come in, right? So we're as an industry, we're kind of going through that shuffle right now, and change is hard. People generally, you know, especially when you're already working, you know, 110% of the time, and now you have to add a new skill into that. I mean, that's just difficult for people. But, you know, again, necessity is the mother of invention, and I would point to the fact that in stores, you know, your sales associates have probably been talking to your customers via WeChat for many years. You know, the question is just, had you integrated that into your business or your brand or not? You know, and I think that the people on the front lines, they've been moving quickly, you know, from the beginning. So I think that right now, anyone who hadn't figured out that change is figuring it out.
On va vous poser une question, là, on va revenir vers vous. Alors je vais la poser en anglais, mais vous allez la comprendre très facilement. Donc à vous de réagir. Vous savez, vous allez dans la session Ian Rogers, cette session invitée, et vous allez pouvoir répondre. La question c'est: Do you predict the luxury market will grow, shrink, or stay the same due to the COVID-19? Est-ce que vous pensez que le marché du luxe va continuer à progresser, va se stagner un peu, va voire diminuer à cause de cet effet Covid-19? Donc voilà, répondez-nous, cliquez sur vos écrans pour voir un peu quelles sont vos réactions. Voilà, on attend vos réponses, on va les voir à l'écran dans un instant. Je vais ressortir mes lunettes pour voir. Ah oui, la question va arriver. Alors, voilà, elle va vous arriver tout de suite. Hein. N'hésitez pas à peut-être un pronostic. You think if you have to give your answer, do you?
Yeah, well, I don't want to spoil the answer for them, but I mean, from my perspective, we're not going to stop, wearing clothes or things that show who we are as individuals, and we're also not going to stop expressing ourselves. And I think, in fact, we're expressing ourselves or expressing our individuality. Which tribe do we belong to? Which tribe do we not belong to at an unprecedented rate? So I think that what luxury product the customer desires might change, but the kind of the fundamental of luxury, which is extremely high quality products that express who we are. That couldn't be more solid. So I think if you're in the business of making an extraordinarily qualitative product that helps people express individuality, you're probably going to do very well over the next 10 to 15 years.
Voilà, la question est arrivée. Donc pensez-vous que voilà, do you think que le luxury market va grossir, baisser ou stagner?
It's a bit of a trick question because it requires a definition of luxury.
Oui, luxury market.
And I don't think that consumers really think that way. I think consumers gravitate towards things that they love. Is Warby Parker luxury or not? I think, from a product perspective, I would say it's not. From a experience perspective, I would say it is. So I think that's where we would have the debate if we opened it up and debated.
Answer is more. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for you. What are the new trends for you in customer journey and experience?
I think that that as I alluded to before, that true seamlessness between what we do in a shop and what we might do from our couch, that true seamlessness is where the innovation is going to happen. And I think that we've made some really good strides in terms of making, if I want to know, okay, what products are in stock, what's available right now for my favorite brand, and where are they available, and can I just buy them online, or should I make an appointment and go into the store? Can I pick up curbside? Like, we've made a lot of progress in terms of those experiences. And I do think the thing that's next, though, is, again, like I said, kind of that, what does FaceTime plus a luxury brand look like? What is that, the in-store experience, but from my couch? And then I think, I was talking with someone yesterday, and I think it would be very fair to say that we'll probably have more sales associates with better tools in their hands, and our stores will be, incredible experiences that would simply not be possible from your couch. So what you'll not have is kind of the boring store, which is just the etymology of the word store meaning storage, right? Yeah. And that's what will go away. But you'll end up having stores which are probably even higher in terms of experiential, and then you'll have more services and capabilities that you can do at a distance.
Alors cette interactivité, on vous l'a fait. Donc il y a une question qui vient d'arriver. Deux questions. What is your point of view? Alors allez-y. What is your point of view
on secondhand for
luxury brands?
Luxury brands? I think that secondhand is it's already a great market, and it's a great experience for the customer, right? You have if you buy something, you have the right to sell it, and if somebody's selling it, you have the right to buy it. So it's already a great service in a market. I think that over time, look at the used car market in the high end. You have certified pre-owned, and I think that customers would love to buy secondhand directly from brands, the same way you would much rather buy a BMW from certified pre-owned BMW than from a used car lot. So I don't think that there's really any rush to get there, but I think that that's what will happen over time.
And the second question is, are you considering having
live stream events
Yes.
for customers? Absolutely. I mean, live stream events, are I mean, look at what we're doing right now. It's a great way to reach a lot of people. It's great content. I mean, done well. If I can experience. I mean, what's great about the internet, in my view, I grew up in a small town in Indiana where, luxury culture and lots of the culture that I was interested in personally, music, et cetera, wasn't available in the town that I grew up in. And now, someone in that town has the same access to culture globally that we have in Paris or New York or London or Tokyo or Shanghai. And so the ability to bring, exceptional in-store experiences that are interesting, or even just watching a designer explain the collection. I mean, I promise you, if you come into the showroom with one of our designers and have them explain the collection to you, you'll fall in love. So what if you can? Why not bring them into the showroom and have that experience?
I've got a last question, Jan. You are today the Chief Digital Officer. Are you going to be the Chief Data Digital Officer?
I consider that my role. I think, and I appreciate the question because it's so close to my heart. I think that we've spent the last 5 years really shaping up our e-commerce strategy, and we have so much work to do. There's a lot of execution left to be done in that strategy, but there really is a mindset at LVMH around e-commerce that I think didn't exist 5 years ago and is very strong now, and I think we should be proud of that. I think data, which we've really been investing in data over the past 3 years very solidly, but that's where the frontier is. And I think it's a completely different frontier because when you're looking at data, first of all, we have a lot of it, where we didn't have a lot of hardware and software in the technical sense. But we do have a lot of data, customer data, product data, business data that can help us run our business data better. And I think that the successful businesses of the future will be the ones who are able to derive an inordinate amount of value. They're able to leverage the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning to get business insights that previously we used human brains to get a lot of incredible insights, and in the future we'll use artificial intelligence and machine learnings to get insights about our business at a different level, and that's going to completely separate the pack from people who are doing okay to people who are excelling, and so I do consider that my role. Yes.
Yeah, and it will be my last question. So we are going to. Here are the new emerging jobs in retail in this market.
No question. I think it's already a tough and competitive market on data, data science, and I think that would accelerate. Yeah, we should tell our kids to study data science.
Voilà, eh bien, le message est lancé. Merci, thank you Yann Rogers, merci d'être avec nous, d'avoir été avec nous, Chief Digital Officer. Voilà, une parole rare, on ne le voit pas assez souvent Yann, mais vous voyez tout ce qu'il a à nous dire. Et vous l'avez compris, on était dans le monde du luxe, mais on est largement dans le monde du retail parce que toute cette expérience client, eh bien, voilà, vous êtes tous à la même enseigne. C'est le cas de le dire. Merci encore une fois Yann.
Merci.
On va se retrouver dans un instant. On va parler, on va se retrouver tout de suite. On va parler du think tank des one-to-one. Vous allez voir une initiative assez intéressante, là encore, de l'interactivité, vous faire participer à tout ça. Et puis n'hésitez pas à nous faire part de vos questions. J'ai un petit peu de mal à les lire de loin, mais on y arrive quand même. Allez, restez avec nous, c'est tout de suite, et réagissez encore une fois derrière vos écrans.